So Hercules wakes up one morning and finds out his first assignment is wrestling a lion. Not just any lion, of course. This one's basically a furry tank with claws. Because apparently the best way to punish a guy is to hand him the world's worst zoo trip. This beast was so tough that spears just bounced off it. Basically, nature's way of saying good luck, champ. So here we are, finally at the beginning of Hercules' long list of cosmic chores, and the first item is not something simple like, I don't know, sweeping the palace steps or watering a divine garden. No, of course not. When you're Hercules, your very first assignment is to go deal with a murderous lion that no weapon can pierce. Because why start small when you can throw the man headfirst into the most absurd nightmare cat in the countryside? This was the Nemean Lion, the terror of Nemea, a creature so oversized, so unnaturally invulnerable that even the hunters of the region had just kind of given up and stopped going outside after dark. It was described as larger than a bull, strong enough to smash through walls, and apparently it had a taste for livestock and sometimes shepherds too. Think of it as the neighborhood problem no one wants to talk about, except the problem has claws the size of daggers and an immune system that laughs at arrows. Now, poor Hercules is told by Eurystheus, his very smug cousin king, yes, go kill that. And Hercules, as usual, doesn't get much say in the matter. He sets off carrying his bow, his arrows, and that ever-present club. And you can just picture him trudging along the dusty Greek roads, not exactly enthusiastic about this new gig. Because sure, he's strong, but this is a beast that already has a reputation for being basically indestructible. The whole thing reeks of a setup. Eurystheus probably thought this would be the end of him. And Hera, naturally, was sitting up on Olympus with a bowl of celestial popcorn, waiting to see him mauled. When Hercules arrives in the territory of Nemea, he starts looking for signs of the lion. And he doesn't have to look very hard. The place is eerily quiet. Abandoned fields, half-destroyed houses, claw marks on doorways where people tried barricading themselves in. At this point, the lion was practically a local legend, and the villagers, those who hadn't already fled, were more than happy to tell Hercules exactly what direction to walk in if he was so eager to get eaten. But he presses on, because he has to. This is labor number one. No lion, no redemption. Now, some stories say that when he first encountered the lion, Hercules did what came naturally. He fired arrows, which of course immediately bounced off the hide like toy darts against a brick wall. You can almost imagine the lion, slightly annoyed, pawing at its side as if Hercules had just flicked a pebble at it. The arrows clattered uselessly to the ground, and Hercules realized quickly that this was not going to be a long-range victory. Which is a shame because archery is so much less exhausting than hand-to-paw combat. But no, the lion's golden fur was impenetrable, a kind of divine armor. The whole animal was wrapped in a cosmic cheat code. The muscle-bound problem solver didn't just throw up his hands. He adjusted. He followed the lion to its lair. This is where the story gets interesting, because apparently the lion lived in a cave with not one, but two entrances, which is not exactly fair. Hercules needed to corner it, but how do you corner a beast that can just dart out the back door? So he came up with a plan. He blocked one entrance, stacking boulders across it, trapping the lion inside, which means that when he walked in through the other side, there was nowhere for the animal to run. It was just Hercules the lion and a showdown that must have made the whole cave echo with roar and fury. The fight, we're told, was brutal. This wasn't a quick stab and done. Hercules had to get close, dangerously close. He dropped his bow, grabbed his club, and eventually wrestled the lion with his bare hands. Imagine this for a moment. The strongest man alive, grappling in the dark, with a beast the size of a small horse, claws raking across the stone, Hercules straining, trying to hold on. The lion roared, bit, scratched. But Hercules, with that stubborn determination that always defined him, managed to lock his arms around its neck and strangle it, slowly, painfully, until the beast went limp. It's worth pausing here because the strangling of the lion is such a signature moment. Hercules doesn't win because of some fancy divine weapon. He doesn't need to win because Athena hands him a magic sword or Zeus throws down a lightning bolt in support. He wins because he just doesn't let go. Sheer persistence, sheer force. It is the kind of victory that is oddly relatable. Sometimes the only way to get through something impossible is to just hang on until it gives. When the lion was finally dead, Hercules faced his next problem. He had to prove it. And that meant skinning the beast. But again, nothing cuts through the hide. His knives, his sword, even sharp rocks, nothing worked. Until, in a moment of tired inspiration, he realized the only tool sharp enough to pierce the lion's fur was the lion itself. So, he used the creature's own claws to skin it, which is both incredibly resourceful and also just slightly gruesome. But it worked. And when he was finished, Hercules wore the hide as a cloak, the massive head pulled up over his own, like some kind of grotesque helmet. And that, of course, became his trademark look forever after. The lion's skin was more than clothing. It was a symbol of his strength, his survival, and let's be honest, it was ancient Greek cosplay at its finest. Now, when Hercules returned to Eurystheus with the hide, it caused a scene. Eurystheus, who had confidently expected Hercules to be dead, suddenly found himself staring at his cousin, wearing the carcass of the indestructible lion. And this did not go over well. In fact, Eurystheus was so terrified by the sight that he refused to even let Hercules into the palace. Instead, he ordered that all future labors must be delivered from outside the gates. He even, according to some versions, had a giant bronze jar built so that he could hide inside it whenever Hercules came back with proof of another completed task, which tells you a lot about this man. Not exactly brave leadership material. But then again, he wasn't supposed to be the hero. He was supposed to be the petty king dishing out assignments. And in that role, he excelled. Hercules, for his part, didn't argue. He had done what was asked. 1 labor down, 11 to go. He knew the game wasn't over. In fact, it was just beginning. And though this first task had been grueling, even terrifying, it was at least straightforward. Kill the lion. Done. Later, labors would be far trickier, messier, and in some cases deliberately humiliating. But the lion had given him something important, a new image. From now on, people would recognize Hercules by that strange cloak, the lion's face snarling above his own, a constant reminder that he was a man who could wrestle the impossible and walk away. Of course, there's a bit of irony here too, because wearing the lion's skin made him look terrifying, but it also made him a bit of an outsider. People didn't exactly invite you over for dinner when you showed up in the carcass of the monster that destroyed their farms. Hercules was always a little too much for ordinary society, too strong, too violent, too scarred by tragedy. The lion's skin was perfect for him. A costume that said, yes, I survived, but no, I'm not normal anymore. And perhaps that's the real meaning of this first labor. It isn't just about strength, it's about transformation. Hercules doesn't just kill a monster, he takes part of it into himself. He becomes the man in the lion's hide, a figure halfway between civilization and wilderness, both admired and feared. Exactly the kind of man the Greeks loved to tell stories about at night, when they wanted to imagine someone bigger than life handling the monsters they couldn't. So, as Hercules trudged away from Nemea, lion hide draped around his shoulders, he must have known that this was only the beginning. There would be more monsters, more impossible tasks, and more of Eurystheus's smug little smirk when he handed down the next assignment. But for now, Hercules had done what seemed impossible. He had strangled the undefeatable. He had turned a divine punishment into a trophy. And for once, Hera had to grit her celestial teeth because her enemy was still standing. And that's where we leave him tonight. Hercules, tired but unbroken, wearing his new cloak like a badge of grim honor, walking slowly back toward a king who hid from him in jars and toward a future filled with even stranger labors. 1 down, 11 to go. The to-do list is far from finished, but at least he doesn't have to deal with the world's angriest cat anymore.